Hello, everyone, and welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 70. Andrew Eisen here, along with Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, everybody. Oh, so how was your week?
It's been busy. I'm working on a video, and it's a really complicated one, so it's taking forever. Actually going to be filming it after the podcast, so
Okay.
hopefully I'll be able to have it edited and ready for my patrons to enjoy tomorrow night, and it's going to be published wide on the 20th, which is what, Friday? Thursday? Friday? Friday.
Okay.
So, if y'all saw the third-party games on Nintendo Switch and in-depth look that I did last March, this is the sequel to that. So, if we all remember, back on October 20th of last year, the Nintendo Switch was officially announced with that 3.5 minute commercial, and which gave us the name and confirmed that it was a portable console, and that you can play in the park with your gigantic dog if you so desire. That same day, Nintendo released an infographic with a bunch of different companies on it that it had partnered with to make the Switch groovy. And a couple weeks after the Switch launched, I made that video, which looked at what games had been released and announced by those companies thus far.
Yeah.
Well, that was 7 or so months ago. We've had E3, we've had Tokyo Game Show, we've had Gamescom and PAX and Comic-Con and all kinds of fun stuff. So this new video that I'm working on is an updated look at the spoils of war, so to speak, the new games and that have been released or announced by those companies. And it's a much larger list now, which is nice.
Nice.
So,
yeah, that is good. I actually saw some Switches in the wild today.
all right.
Yeah, I went over to Walmart and decided to pop into the electronics section, and they had 3 Splatoon ones, the Splatoon bundles, and so that was cool. Didn't buy one just because I don't have money to buy one, but but yeah, it was just kind of cool. Those were the first ones I saw in a store. So
Yeah, first one I saw in a store. Well, I've only seen one in a store other than the one I bought, I suppose. And it was a Walmart, and it was back in July, I believe. So,
yeah.
Okay, well, Matthew's given us a link, so I'm going to go see what it is. And that, did I accidentally type it in a search bar? That's not actually a link, Matthew. I think you're missing a .com in there.
Yeah. Not sure why it didn't put in the .com. But
So Black Riddles, whoever that is, announced cross-network play for Crazy Justice, whatever that is, between the Nintendo Switch, PC, Xbox One, indie dev, game dev, feed. Oh, there's just a bunch of hashtags. Okay,
yeah.
so yeah, cross-network play for whatever the hell Crazy Justice is. Yay! I noticed PlayStation isn't on that list. PlayStation doesn't like, Sony don't like playing with others. I think, what was the other, Rocket League was doing the same thing. I think Minecraft might do crossplay.
Rocket League and Minecraft are all doing crossplay, and then there was something else that accidentally had crossplay, including the PlayStation 4, and then they had to push an update out to
stop
fix
that. We can't have gamers coming together and playing. What do you think these are? Video games?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
let's see. So I've been, other than working on this fairly large video, Actually, I'll have another one next month that's pretty large. I'm still organizing the Extra Life charity. What was Fortnite, Matthew?
Fortnite. I think he's saying Fortnite was the game that accidentally included PS4 crossplay.
Is Fortnite? That's Epic Games, isn't it? Is that even out yet, or is it like early access or beta or?
Yeah, I'm not
remember.
sure.
Where was it? Oh, yeah. Extra Life charity marathon video games 24 hours straight thing.
Yeah.
So I bought a game I thought would be fun. Deception 4. Is it Deception? Yeah, Deception 4 for the PlayStation 4, which is a game where you are a woman with no pants, and you live. Woman. You are this woman with no pants. I think you can play this woman with no pants, but so far I'm playing this woman with no pants. And no pants lady lives in a castle, and everyone thinks she's a witch. She's not. She's actually the daughter of the devil. Big difference, you see. And so do-gooders keep storming her castle, so she has to set up elaborate traps to kill them, I guess.
Yeah.
And there, a lot of them are really funny traps. Well, some of them are like shooting darts across the room, bear traps to hold them in place, swinging pit and the pendulum blade pendulum things, drop boulders on people. But there's also you can put a rake on the floor and the rake smacks them in the head. There's a banana peel to slip on. There's like this jack-o'-lantern that you can drop on their head. Like in Dead Rising, you can put the serve-bot masks or traffic cones on the zombies. Same thing here. They get a big pumpkin on their head. So it is really funny. And I thought it would be a fun game to play with my sister while she's here on the stream while we're half asleep, because it's probably going to be really funny with us trying to set up these Rube Goldbergian traps to trap peoples. So I played it a little bit this evening, rather.
Yeah.
Not like that's important. And the biggest problem, it is fun. I think it'll make a fun watch for part of the show. The biggest problem with the game is probably the biggest problem the game could possibly have, which is unfortunate, and that's the camera. You really want to be able to see what's going on, to see these hapless heroes fall into these ridiculous traps. Well, and that can be difficult because the camera doesn't play as nicely as you would like. It's clear this game was built on a budget, even though this is the fourth in the series. It's one of those budget games, it looks like, and the camera is not quite right. It's really difficult to sometimes to track exactly what's going on with the traps, and that's unfortunate. But it's still a cute and fun game.
Yeah. You would think after 20 years or so of 3D games that cameras would be one of those things that have already been solved, and everybody just kind of does what already works. But
yeah, well, let me clarify a little bit. The camera operation actually works fine. I haven't got it like caught in a wall or anything. You have to manually activate the traps when a bad guy or good guy or whatever you want to call him walks over the spot that the trap's going to smack him in the face. So you see the spot on the floor where the trap is, and you're like, okay, now. And there's a button you can hold that's kind of like the trap cam, which focuses the camera on the bad guy so that you can see where they are in relation to the traps. And there's another one which is supposed to be able to track the bad guys. He goes, springboard throws him over here, which pushes him over here, which knocks him over here. That tracking doesn't really work as well as it should, which makes the which kind of puts a damper on the whole absurdity of seeing him, ping ponging back and forth between several different traps. Which is a shame, but that's them's the breaks.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not like you can't see what's going on. The camera isn't bad. It's just not where it needs to be to really emphasize the stuff that you want to see in this game. So,
Okay.
but if you want to see what I'm talking about, watch the Extra Live Charity Marathon stream November 4th, I think it is, that weekend.
Yeah.
And for those of you on the other side of the pond, I'm streaming for 24 hours straight. So unless you're busy that weekend, some time ought to be good for you. So,
Sounds good. Yeah, I probably won't watch much, if any of it, because I always have something I need to do. But we'll see.
Oh, by
Maybe
the way,
one of these years I'll actually get around to participating in.
To anyone who's gonna ask, we're not having a Molehill Mountain podcast that weekend. So
no.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
Let's see what else.
Can you imagine Andrew trying to play, stream, and podcast at the same time?
Yeah. So, I also watched Cult of Chucky, the new Child's Play movie.
All right.
And I was pretty pleased with it. I'm a big fan of the Child's Play movies, and this new one I thought was pretty good. I think it was Don Mancini, I think, is the director. I feel he lets the tone get away from him in the third act, and there are a couple lore inconsistencies and a few, such that the movies tend to go back and forth on whether Chucky is filled with stuffing or gore.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be like, whatever would make this particular scene better. I mean, for example, you shoot Chucky and he bleeds because while he's a doll, he has functioning organs and stuff like that. But there's a scene where he detaches his arm, and it's just a plastic socket where the arm plugs in. It's like, well, wait a minute. Shouldn't that be like a all gory and stuff? So there are some times where it's like, well, what are the rules here? There's also just some nitpicky stuff that annoys me, like the Chucky doll voice, not Brad Dourif's Chucky, but the actual good guy doll voice. The "Hi, I'm Chucky. Want to play?" That voice is completely different in this movie, and I'm like, okay, maybe whoever the actor was who originally did that is no longer with us or didn't have time to record some stuff, but it's the same lines. You have recordings of these. Use those. Why is the voice so different? It's supposed to be the same doll. Now, in Bride of Chucky, it didn't sound the same because Chucky had been basically pulled out of a garbage bag after being shredded by an industrial fan at the end of the third movie. So you kind of, your headcanon is like, well, the tape got all messed up and is playing back all scratchy and slow, and that's why the voice sounds weird. But this one's just a completely different voice. Nitpicky, I know, but that's me. Other than that, I really quite enjoyed the movie.
Okay. Yeah, I've only ever seen the first two. I think
arguably the best two. Definitely the first one's the best. The one that came out a couple of years ago, Curse of Chucky's pretty good too.
Yeah. Because there's so you've got, I don't know the names of all of them, but I do. We've got three of them, and then what? Okay, name them all.
Child's Play 1, 2, and 3. Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Curse of Chucky,
and now Cult of Chucky. Yeah. Okay, and Chucky has not yet been in space, though, right?
Not yet.
Okay.
And
I was reading about
breadcrumbs don't seem to be leading to the next movie being in space, but I would not at all put it past the creators to take Chucky to space one day.
Yeah, well, because that's I was reading about Friday the 13th movies, and And when they got to the Jason X or whatever it is,
Mhm.
they kind of joked around that
Jason
any
Space.
horror franchise that lasts long enough, it's their monster's going to end up in space. And so
Uh,
you got,
that yeah. For
yeah,
example, Leprechaun ended up in space.
yeah,
Hellraiser ended up in space, and then came back and just kept being terrible for like
yeah.
4 or 5 more movies.
Dracula's been in space.
Dracula's been in space. We already said Jason. Freddy never went to space.
Freddy hasn't. That's surprising. Uh,
Yep.
but
I'm trying to think if any of the dreams went sci-fi. I can't really think. No, fantasy, yes, but none of the dreams
yeah,
I can think of
I
actually
don't. I don't
sci-fi.
think I've ever
Well,
actually
except
watched.
Alice's Dan, I think his name is in the fourth movie, who goes all motorcycle-y. His motorcycle like takes him over, and he becomes kind of half man, half motorcycle.
That's weird.
Cecil says, "Chucky on the moon." Yeah. Um, but if you enjoy the Child's Play movies, you're in good hands with the seventh one that just came out. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Um, and they bring back, this is not a spoiler, they bring back Alex Vincent, who played Andy Barclay, the little kid in the first two movies. And Justin Whalen portrayed him in the third movie, uh, because that movie skipped ahead like 8 years, but was made 10 months after the second movie, so they had to cast a different Andy because
Of course.
because
Yeah.
Alex Vincent was still like 9 years old at the time. So,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting because Alex Vincent is only about a year or two younger than me, like a year and a half younger than I am. So he and I are the same name, same age. So we've been growing up with these movies together. So it's kind of interesting to see one of the
Nice.
protagonists your age and just kind of age with you in a movie. So
Yeah.
I guess the other notable thing that Matthew was alluding to is um, I played the demo from Near Automata, and this is a game that I've talked about before. You all probably heard the name because a lot of people are talking about it in very positive regards. But it's a game I was only interested in because of word of mouth. I mean, I'd heard of it, and Platinum's behind it, so how bad could it be, honestly? Um, but everything I saw just looked drab and dull and boring and
Hmm.
lifeless, and I mean, it's just gray and brown, and you're a person with a sword and a black dress running through brown sand, beating up brown robots. Sometimes you're in a like post-apocalyptic world of crumbling gray buildings, and it's gray, and everything's brown and gray.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know what the hell. I think who's publishing Square Enix, someone. I don't know what they were thinking with the marketing campaign, but it's not representative of the game at all. So I played the demo just because I noted because I'd heard everyone says it's great, and when you beat it, play it again. No, seriously, do it. Without spoiling anything, you need to play through it a second time. Okay. So I played the demo, and it's really, really, really good. And it's even beautiful in its own way, which I wasn't expecting because I saw the trailers. The marketing for this game is terrible. It makes it look so bad. The demo's really short. It's only like about 20 minutes long. Unless you stand in one place for an hour, then it could last as long as you for a long, long time. But you play I think she's a robot.
I
Her
believe she is.
her
Yeah.
buddy is definitely a robot. Um, but she has swords floating on her back, and she has a little floaty robot companion, and she is tasked with killing some of the most adorable little robots I have ever seen. I mean, these suckers look like a cross between Wall-E and Baymax. They are
Yeah.
so adorable. I don't want to kill them, but they do shoot at you and come at you like swinging with their arms, and I'm like, oh, it's so cute.
Yeah.
slash slash slash. Uh, as you would expect from a
So,
platinum game, it
yeah.
is a ton of fun. The combat is really satisfying and really
Yeah, so
fun.
one thing that kind of stood out to me in one of the trailers I saw was one group of these robots kind of like crawled on top of each other to form some larger mass. Like I don't remember exactly what it is they turned into, but it is, I think it's probably a little bit later in the game than what the trailer or the demo has. But yeah, that was something that I saw, and I thought that was pretty interesting. And it's not a mechanic you see in a lot of games. So yeah, it's definitely something interesting to try out whenever I get around to
Yeah.
it.
Um, I'm also, if we have time, I'm planning on doing a video game fashion police for 2B, who is uh, the character you play as in the demo at least. I don't know if there's like multiple characters in the game or not, but because she has her outfit's really cool.
Mhm.
So we might, if my sister and I can find the time to do it, which we might not because Extra Life charity event takes up a lot of time. We
Yeah,
want to shoot a video game fashion police for that. Um, but the demo's a lot of fun. Oh, the music is phenomenal. It's really good. Gets a little Ghost in the Shell for my taste in a few points, but um, overall, really good music. The camera direction is inspired. You wander around a 3D area, but sometimes the camera will just lock down from a viewpoint to make it kind of a 2D side scroller, or it
hmm
may go overhead and have it be an overhead like uh, 3/4 viewpoint uh, shooter, like some of the levels in Contra 3. Um, there's so much variety going on. The level in the demo is like an oil rig uh, out in the ocean or something like that. So
hmm
it's lots of metal walkways and stuff like that, which you expect would be brown and gray, but it's a lot of reds and orange and pinks because it's done at sunset. And
yeah,
there's a lot of the camera does a lot of interesting things where between fights it'll pan out and show you the scenery, and there's a lot of lip service done to, oh look, birds and plant life, so that's leading you into some subtle storytelling about where we are in the timeline, what has happened.
yeah,
Apparently, life went away and might be coming back. And of course, it's platinum, so you have a gigantic damn boss fight at the very end of it, which is a lot of fun. Um, and then you strap into a mech and you fight the giant boss, and you climb all over the giant boss, and uh, then you both blow up and die at the very end. I'm like, oh, that's a short game. Um, it's weird because you beat the
yeah.
giant boss, and then two or three more giant bosses like stand up and are like, "Hey, I saw what you did to Jerry," and our heroes are like, "Well, we just barely put down one. We're probably not putting down two or three more. So, Black Box of Doom, kaboom!" I'm like, "Oh well." Spoilers. And there's also a lot of
Yeah.
really interesting details in the game. I was futzing around in the menus, and your character's weapons seem to have like an unlockable story. I didn't play with it too much. I don't think you can do much with it in the demo, but it seems like if you level up your weapons, you unlock the weapon's story, like it has a background or a history or something, which sounds. I love crap like that. That sounds really neat.
Yeah.
You can also apply buffs and uh, skill attributes and augments and stuff like that, uh, which also leads me to thinking, oh, is my character a robot? Because it's presented like a memory bank, and you just slot in your different buffs, extra health or less damage, into the memory. So there's a finite amount of memory, and some of the stuff that's already installed is uh, like your life bar, a lot of the HUD
Yeah.
display elements, the radar and the life bar and stuff like that. And there's also, I didn't try it at the time. Uh, there's also an OS, And I'm like, I can
Yeah.
uninstall my OS, and the description reads, "Don't do this, you'll die."
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm
they
like,
actually
it
had that in there.
probably will kill you. It's like, all right, we warned you. Bye, game over.
Well,
I
yeah,
really want to
that's
play it
actually
again.
that is actually a feature in there. You take that OS chip out, and it's game over. They put
That's
that in there. It's
that's
hilarious.
hilarious.
Because there was actually some story, articles about it on various websites when that was discovered, and I thought, man, that is hilarious. Every game should come with some form of suicide.
Yeah, and some form of dress up, because dress
Yeah.
up makes games. It's why Monster Hunter is so good. You think it's the monsters? No, it's the outfits. And something Susan Arndt said on Twitter today or yesterday was that if there's a cat in a video game, there better be a button to pet it. And I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to playing Nier Automata because I really enjoyed the demo, and as my mind is telling me Square Enix is publishing, so someone correct me if I'm wrong. Uh, Market better, because you've got a great game on your hands, but no one knew about it except by word of mouth. It doesn't seem like a game that would be that hard to advertise properly, but
Yeah.
the trailers I saw just made it look like the dullest, blandest, most boringest game ever. So,
Yeah.
um, bad,
Ugh.
bad Square,
Yeah.
bad Square. So couldn't
Yeah.
have been the news.
But well, this week, so my computer has survived so far this week, which is nice. Last week, it crashed on me again, and I had
Jeez.
to and so I was just like, because it would have a hard drive, like it would lose the boot partition of the hard drive, and so I said okay, and replaced both hard drives with brand new hard drives, and installed everything again, and and now it's lasted a week. So I think one of the hard drives was bad on one of the hard drives that were already in it. I don't know which one. I have to figure that out, because I would like to have a nice backup hard drive. But yeah, so I've got that all fixed, and hopefully it stays this way, because I really want to get back to working on games, and I didn't want to start anything this week until I was sure this thing was going to survive. So I'll probably start working on some games next week. But I did get to play some stuff. And earlier this week, I found a copy of Midway Arcade Treasures for PS2. And I thought, okay, it was at Goodwill, $2, and I was like, I like this, I'll take it, I'll get it and play it, and and I got it home, and that night I played with my son, because wanted to spend some quality time with him, and there was a bunch, several multiplayer games on there. We played Gauntlet and Rampage, and then Smash TV, which this is the first time I've ever played Smash TV, and it was actually a pretty neat game. I enjoyed it. My son liked it too. The whole toasters and other prizes that you collect along the way, that was a lot of fun. But I do have a huge major complaint about this thing, and it's not about the games themselves. The games are fine. It's Midway's stupid UI for selecting games. Okay,
Man,
so
you a collection of games, UI for selecting. That sounds like that sounds like the most softball UI you could ever throw at anyone.
oh yeah,
All
yeah.
right, how did they
It's
possibly bork that?
okay. First, let me tell you about a good UI, and I'm not talking about the NES Classic. The SNES Classic have great UIs from everything that I've read, but the Atari Classic Collection for the PS1 was one that stood out as a good UI for me. Okay, and what it was is along the right side of the screen, it had a scrollable selection of games, and it had the actual box art, or not, the cartridge labels. And that's what you saw. You saw the title, a little bit of the box art type stuff, and you just scrolled through and you picked your game. And then when you hovered over one, it had that cartridge going into uh, a mock Atari, and then just like the automatic demo screen displayed on a fake TV, and then you picked it and you played. Okay, well, and that was great, and it worked out. You could see exactly what you were selecting. But with Midway, okay, first thing is they decided to go with an ancient Egyptian pyramid motif. And so
Okay. Odd
it goes
choice
to,
already, but
yes,
okay.
odd choice. So it goes to the Midway Arcade Treasures title screen, and then it's like, press start, and then it goes through these fake maze tunnels, and I don't know how long it goes because I hit the X button and it skipped it, or the start button and it skipped it, but it was just going through all these stupid tunnels, and that was annoying. And I'm sorry, I that was incredibly stupid, and I hated it. Um, but then it gets to the where you can actually select the games, and instead of having a list of game names or game logos that you could scroll through and select, it had two obelisks or something with two columns of hieroglyphs on each obelisk, and each hieroglyph corresponded to a game. And I guess the hieroglyphs are supposed to, are representative of the game itself, but some of them were just kind of, what is this? Okay, and then you select, you hover over one of the hieroglyphs, and in the center is a rectangle. And instead of just showing the title of the game, or like the title of the game and then the demo or whatever, it showed the actual arcade title screen sequence. So all the animation that goes into it and everything. There was no way to skip through to see what the game is, because some of these title screens were just super long, and it took like 5 to 10 seconds before you could even read the name of the game that you were looking at. And so I'm sitting there flipping through these games, and half the time I'm just like, okay, what is this one? I don't know. And I'm like referring to the back of the box to see if maybe I could figure out what game this might be, because the back of the box actually has a list of all the games that are on there. And yeah, it's like some of the title screens were pretty quick, but a lot of them just were not quick at all. And so, yeah, navigating that menu was just absolutely terrible. And then I was playing it on a PS2 on an HD TV, and so there was a lot of fuzziness to it, and so that kind of doubled down on how hard it was to read. I think it might have been more clear on a CRT TV or something, but yeah, it just was not very good at all. And it makes me not want to play this game ever again, even though I love Rampage and Gauntlet. But man, was that menu just absolutely terrible. Yeah. So rant over.
I have similar problems with Sony's front end. It takes longer than it should to get to a game, and it also takes longer than it should to get to turn off the console.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing I'll give the Switch at least. It turns on really really fast, and you can go from dead off to playing a game, depending on how long a game actually takes to load and all the production company logos and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But Switch turns on, and you're in a the first thing you see on the front menu is game. So
Nice.
that's nice.
Yeah. So, okay,
Seeking,
Seekend asks
I think
what I'm
that's what
doing
it
in
was.
Stardew Valley right now. He's probably yeah, I'm farming. So I have a farm on there that's in year 5, I think, and I'm currently growing ancient fruit, which is the most valuable fruit. It grows through all 3 growing seasons, so spring, summer, and fall, and just keeps producing fruit every week. So that's what's going on in that one. But last week or earlier this week, I started a new farm because I watched a video on YouTube where the guy that I was watching suggested, if you can get a coffee bean from a traveling merchant, like in the first week or so, you can make tons of money by the end of summer because coffee grows throughout both seasons, and you can just continue to harvest it. And what he did was he got one coffee bean, planted it, let it grow, and it produced 4 coffee beans, and he planted those ones, and he just kept growing his crop until it filled out most of his farm by the end of the summer, and he made several $100,000. And I was like, ooh, that might be fun. So that was what I was wanting to do, but I didn't get my coffee beans until like the last week of spring, so it didn't work out that well. And plus, I was it would have been a pain in the butt to take care of that many crops anyways. But so yeah. So that's what that one started out as, and then I turned it into trying to see if I could complete the community center, which you have to collect a bunch of items and other things in order to complete this community center. And I'm going to trying to see if I can do that in the first year, because I managed to find one. There's one item in the community center that you can't normally get until year 2, and and I managed to find that item in year 1 in the first week of spring. So I was just like, sweet. So that got me interested in trying to do the community center all in 1 year. So that's what I've been doing. And other than that, last week Matthew had recommended, after I lamented about the terrible quality of superhero cartoon shows right now, he had recommended My Hero at Academia. And I watched the first 3 episodes, and I'm not liking it. I'm sure it would be okay, but it just has a lot of those anime tropes that just drive me nuts. Just like the overly emotional reactions. It's like the kind of crying and scared overreactions and stuff, and it's like the main character is just constantly doing that, and it's really annoying. And I'm trying to give it a chance, but it's just, I don't know if I can do this.
You gave it 3 episodes, you say?
Yeah, 3 episodes.
All right.
So maybe it gets better, but yeah, it's just those kind of anime tropes that I see in a lot of these, a lot of the anime shows I've tried to watch in the past just kind of creep back up into this one, and yeah, so yeah, I tried.
That's all anyone can ask. I still haven't seen it. It's one I have heard, not just from Matthew, but from several others. So it's on the very long list of I'll get to it eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, the premise is kind of interesting because it's in a world where 80% of the people have superhuman powers of some sort or another.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a reverse X-Men, where instead of just where a minority of the population wakes up with superpowers, the majority does, and it's about this kid without superpowers who wants to be a hero, and then through happenstance meets his idol, and his idol decide, after observing the kid's bravery, decides to mentor him and help him achieve his goal of becoming a hero.
Yeah,
So
it's tough when there is a show or some other piece of entertainment that comes highly recommended and you just can't get into it due to, I don't want to say superficial things, but specificities that go against what you can palate, you know?
yeah.
Like, I just can't get into Rick and Morty. And that is such a show that, which is interesting because I can recognize the brilliance and creativity of the show, but I really genuinely cannot stand the design of the show, and I really don't like Rick, and I don't like Morty either. So it makes it a really hard show to watch when I don't like how it looks and I don't like the characters. But damn, is that show creative? Oh my gosh, is it some really smart, sharp writing? I just don't like the look or the characters.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I haven't watched it, and Adventure Time as well is another show that I haven't gotten around to watching either, because I don't.
I find extraordinarily off-putting.
Yeah, I don't like, I don't think I'm I'm not a snob or anything. I just have a very strong fondness for 90s and 80s and 90s American cartoons, and so if something looks like that, yeah, I'll give that a shot. But there's a lot of stuff out there that I just have no interest in, just because I don't like. Yeah, I have what it looks like just doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, I have pretty eclectic taste, but occasionally I'll come across an art style where I'm like, no, just no. So okay, let's get into our first topic, and the first topic is one I haven't actually discussed with you because it's something I learned this afternoon, and that is IGN has acquired Humble Bundle.
Oh yeah, I saw that news yesterday. It threw me for a loop. I was not aware that Humble Bundle was seeking buyers.
Yeah, I guess it's a matter of that's the thing I was trying to think of. I'm like, why would Humble Bundle want to do that? Does IGN just have the connections to pull off game bundles and things of that nature that Humble couldn't do itself? Humble actually does a pretty nice damn job of getting some major games in its bundles, but maybe partnering with IGN just extends that reach a lot further.
Maybe, or because what I've read is that IGN says that it's going to take a completely hands-off approach. Like, they're just going to let the Humble Bundle do their own thing. So it's
right. So it sounds like a money and resources thing.
Yeah, and that's what it sounds like. And I wasn't, I wasn't aware that they were hurting for money. I know that
it may not be that they were hurting. It's just that they're getting bigger than Humble Bundle is a fairly big thing now, and they may need to grow in order to keep up with the demands of how popular it is.
Well, that's true, because the Humble Bundle, it started out as just the brainchild of a couple of indie developers, indie game developers, and maybe they just didn't expect the growth trajectory that they ended up on, and maybe they were getting a little overwhelmed and decided they needed somebody with a little more business know-how to help them out. Maybe. That could be it.
Here's an interesting wrinkle, though. Humble is actually a games publisher.
Mm-hmm.
publishes games. The only one I can think of is A Hat in Time. Is a game that Humble is publishing itself,
Yeah.
which makes you wonder: is IGN going to review any game that Humble publishes? It shouldn't.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah,
shouldn't.
that was something that I saw from a couple of people on Twitter. They had asked that same question. It's like, what kind of what kind of ethics walls is IGN going to put up? Because reviewing a game that they technically publish because they own Humble Bundle is definitely an ethics violation. As far as I'm concerned, and
Yeah,
I'm nowhere near ethics and games journalism type person, where I'm very lenient in what I consider an ethics violation. Like I there's very
that's
little.
a clear conflict of
Yeah,
interest. I
that's a
think
clear
anyone at
conflict of interest.
SPJ would
Yeah,
agree with that. That
and
you don't review stuff made by a company or put
you
out by a
own
company that
or
you
yeah,
own.
or yeah,
I mean, even and I completely believe because I know a lot of the editors at IGN. I completely believe that whoever they put on A Hat in Time or whatever other humble published game to review, they would be completely fair in their verdict. But that doesn't matter. Even if you put the
yeah,
disclaimer, we own the company that publishes this game. Just don't. Just don't.
yeah,
On the other hand, it might not be a problem because doesn't look at a ton of indie games. It only really looks at the reviews the big indies. Uh,
yeah,
I don't even know if A Hat in Time would have been on IGN's review slate in the first place.
yeah,
But
definitely,
yeah,
yeah.
I would say that yeah, don't review any. Don't review the 3 games or whatever it is that Humble actually published. Just don't.
Yeah,
Don't. Matthew says, I don't have high hopes for this, sadly. Buyouts almost never end well. This doesn't look like.
this
Well, it depends
doesn't
on
look like a hostile buyout,
exactly.
and
If this was EA, I would totally agree with you. But IGN, as long as they don't
yeah,
review the
see,
Humble published
and
games, should be fine.
yeah, and honestly, there are other buyers out there that I would be okay with. Congregate, well, I guess Congregate's owned by GameStop now, so, but but Congregate itself as its own entity, I think would handle it pretty well because they still do really well with Congregate and the other associated things with it. I think GameStop kind of takes it off, uh, you know, uh, kind of just lets them do their own thing.
Well,
But
GameStop also owns Game Informer magazine, doesn't it? Am I
yeah,
thinking of the
yeah,
right one? Which is also a weird one
yeah,
where
it's
you
Game
have a
Informer, I
magazine
think.
that's reviewing games that its parent company is trying to sell you. That's another one that's just weird, and they
Yeah,
probably just shouldn't do. But it,
Direct to Drive was IGN owned. I don't remember Direct to
it
Drive.
was at some point. Yeah, I don't think it. Well, who used to own IGN? Was it Fox? I think it was Fox.
No, it wasn't Fox. I think it was
Warner,
CBS.
CBS, Warner Brothers. Some huge corporation
Yeah.
used to own. I thought it was Fox. Oh, I'd have to look it up. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think it was Fox. Fox doesn't come across as somebody that would want anything to do with games media. Um,
I see what Matthew's. Yeah, oh, it was Fox. Okay, good. I'm
okay.
glad I remembered something correctly. Matthew said this isn't IGN's first go at this. Direct to Drive was IGN owned and it failed. So I don't believe that was because IGN. So I'm willing to cut him a bit of slack on that one. I just think that was a bad investment. I don't think
Yeah.
that was
I'm
Direct
trying
to
to
Drive
remember
was
what
doing
Direct to
great.
Drive was, but
Wasn't it a cloud gaming thing?
yeah, well, Wikipedia just says it's an online game store. So
Yeah, I thought it was a kind of a cloud gamey thing. Uh, which no one was ready. So I think it was just a bad investment, a thing where the no one's ready for this yet. I don't get the sense it was Direct to Drive was this flourishing company with a wonderful future.
Okay, yeah, they changed it to GameFly, and
GameFly's the rental service, isn't it?
okay, no, okay. So GameFly acquired Direct to Drive from IGN and then renamed it to GameFly Digital. Okay, so GameFly is
library.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's yeah. I don't remember Direct to Drive. Yeah.
It did a Kirby. It just hoovered it all up. So anyway, that was an interesting piece of news from
Games
today.
now holds the now owns Direct to Drive, or something along those lines.
You want to know?
This is weird history.
Yeah, it's weird. In researching the video, I'm going to record tonight and will be available next week or in a couple days if you're a patron. Project Octopath Traveler. That is apparently developed by Silicon Studios. And one of the ways we know this is if you go to the Project Octotraveler page on Nintendo's site, it says from the developers of Bravely Default, which is Silicon Studios. So you're like, oh, okay, so the developer Silicon Studios. So I'm playing the demo for Project Octopath. Man, I'm stumbling over that name. Project Octopath Traveler a week or two or three ago. And the company logos go by as you turn it on. It's Square Enix, and then it says Acquire. I'm like, okay. And I looked it up, and that's a subsidiary of Gung Ho. And I'm like, what? And the Silicon Studios name wasn't anywhere on it. I'm like, did they farm out the game to Acquire to do the demo? Are they both working on it? Did the project change hands? Nintendo still is saying from the developers of Bravely Default. So I don't know.
That is weird. You think somebody would be a little more open about that, but I think that particular game hasn't ever had a really 100% clear, who's making this, even from the beginning.
It has not. You're right. Yeah. Matthew says that he hopes they don't stick with the name. I hope they do, because it's so ridiculous.
Octopath Traveler is actually a pretty fun name to say.
Yeah,
they can drop the project, sure. But Octopath Traveler is just, it's fun.
And it's 8 different characters, and you follow the paths of 8 different travelers. Octopath Traveler. Ah, it works. Yeah, I just love how goofy it is.
Yeah. I like it. I like fun names to say. If the name isn't fun to say, I don't like it. But yeah.
Oh my God, gas can. They tweeted. That sounds mildly filthy. Tweeted a pic of Bravely Default with Octo.
PT.
Are you okay? Path Traveler. Okay, Octo PT. Octopath Traveler.
Did you get Twitter's opposite update where they halved the character count rather than doubled them?
No, I'm still at 140.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying for gas can. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Matthew says he hopes they do keep the name, but he's saying they won't. And I'm of agreement. I'm sure that the name will change, and it makes me sad unless they change it to something better. But I mean, Square is known for
changing to Saga Frontier.
I mean, come on, Bravely Default. Look at some of the Kingdom Hearts names. They got some wacky names, so I'm sure it'll be wacky.
They'll make Octopath Traveler another another game in the Saga Frontier series, and it'll be something stupid, and I'll be sad.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on and let's talk about the evils of DLC.
Yay!
So this is a topic that Zachary came up with. So, have you ranked all of these?
So sort of. My general ranking is what I emailed you from what I consider most acceptable to least acceptable.
Right.
And then
So we're talking,
yeah.
and I assume you're talking about paid DLC.
Yeah, paid
Most of
DLC,
this,
free
most of this stuff,
DLC, whatever.
if it's free, I don't care.
Yeah,
You want to give me free loot boxes? Okay.
yeah.
Microtransactions, but they're all free.
Then
Okay. Don't know why you're wasting
Yeah.
my time with this, but okay.
Yeah.
So, Zachary's
Yeah.
going to go through his list of paid DLC in order of most acceptable to least acceptable,
Yeah.
and I'm going to
Yeah.
chime in with my thoughts.
Yeah. So I initially wrote this list as from least bad to worst because anytime you have to pay extra on top of the $60 you paid for a game, or less than $60 in Andrew's case, yeah, that to me is not acceptable.
Yeah. Let me give a kind of a general overview. Is that a crawling on my wall?
I live in the country. There's crawling things on my walls all the time, and it freaks my wife out and my kids out. But I'm just like,
I was chasing a cricket the other night, and this was was he a pain to catch, because I'm like trying to grab him, just hops away. I'm like, I don't know if this is like the most agile cricket I've ever tried to catch, or if I'm just getting slow in my old age, because it took me about 2 or 3 minutes to actually get this little bugger. Anyway, so my general feelings about DLC is there shouldn't be a paid DLC. There shouldn't be any paid DLC unless the game is free. If it's a free-to-play game, go ahead and do DLC. But if I just paid $60 for a game, if your MSRP, I didn't, but if the MSRP is $60, if you got $60 for the game, I should be done paying for it. That's it. You want to give me free stuff from then on? That's great. Generally speaking. Now, if you're actually making new, additional content for the game, like what we used to see and used to call expansions, that I'm generally okay with. Unless you announce it like 3 months before the game comes out, and then I start thinking, well, it sounds like it was something you already had planned and then carved out of the game to sell me later. So, generally speaking, $60 games should not have paid DLC. I believe that it even behooves, generally, for the most part, of course, companies to make all their DLC free. Do DLC, fine, but it should be free. Most of a game's sales happen in the first several weeks. Now, there are a lot of games that actually just sell forever, like Minecraft and most of Nintendo's games. But most games, the bulk of their sales are going to be in the first 3-4 weeks. Right? DLC, free DLC, is your opportunity to have a second first impression. Because the people that didn't buy it the first time may see it the second time and go, oh yeah, I remember that got good reviews, and hey, now it has even more value. And if it's far enough down the line, it might be even cheaper, making it even more valuable. And the people who bought it in the first place are going to love you even more because they get free stuff. And they pull it out of their closet and start playing it some more, and it keeps word of mouth going. It keeps it in the public consciousness. It behooves you to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to. Doesn't mean it doesn't work any other way, but that's the way I prefer it generally.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
Zachary, go ahead.
All right. So this all got started with discussions online about loot boxes, particularly around Star Wars Battlefront. Was released with a bunch of loot boxes, and these things were totally unbalanced and crazy, and there's all kinds of conversations about whether loot boxes are actually gambling or what, and I was just thinking about it. It's like
the answer is yes, they are.
Yeah, they're a type of gambling. But so I started thinking about it. Got a little spot on my screen. I gotta see, there we go. Sorry about that. And so I thought about it, and I was like, is there really any kind of paid DLC that I find acceptable? And I couldn't really think of anything. And so I started going through all of what what I consider, everything that I could think of that goes into paid DLC, and I decided, okay, well, let's rank these of what is least bad or most acceptable to to the worst things, absolutely unacceptable. And Andrew added a couple, sent me a couple other things in a follow up email that now I'm trying to figure out where to rank those. They're both pretty terrible, but they're not quite paid DLC. They're just exclusive DLC. So I find them both pretty unacceptable. So
that's true.
Yeah, because you got pre-order exclusives. So in order to get this content, you have to pre-order the game, and then you have retail exclusives, where in order to get this content, you have to buy it from a specific retailer. And a lot of times, different retailers will have different stuff, and there's no way to get that other stuff if you buy it from one of the retailers. So both of those are pretty unacceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. For me, pre-order bonuses and retail exclusives, I'm generally, I don't like them, but I'm not throwing a hissy fit if the exclusives are little tchotchkes, stuff that is outside of the game or movie, little figurines or stickers or crap like that. If it's actually exclusive in-game content, that's when I start.
Exactly. Yeah. So on the most acceptable side of things, we've got new maps, new levels to play on, and new characters. Okay, these are kind of both interchangeable in this. Whereas
it depends on what game you're talking about.
Yeah, depending on what game. Like if you're playing
like a fighting
game, like Marvel vs. Capcom, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Injustice, having a character packs to download more characters, that's okay, I guess. If you're playing a shooter or something and they release new maps, multiplayer maps, single player maps, whatever, that's okay. As long as as long as we don't get that feeling that they're carving out content to resell us later. Like Soul Calibur 5 had that problem where there was this one specific character. I was like, ooh, I like him. He was featured in a lot of trailers and gameplay footage for the game. And then I come to find out that he's a pre-order exclusive at a specific retailer. And I'm like, what? And it's like my brother had the game, and I went in there. I was like, okay, is there any way to actually get this guy? And he's like, not that I've found. And I'm just like, why is he even in there then if he can't actually play as him? So as long as you don't get that feeling that something has been carved away, these are mostly somewhat acceptable.
Yeah. And one easy thing that companies can do to lessen the sense that you've carved chunks out of your game is don't announce this stuff before the game comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
And like 2-3 months before the game. Oh, by the way, we're going to have these 5 characters available for extra monies later. It's like,
yeah.
I see what you're doing there. I think I'll wait for the Game of the Year edition. Thank you.
Yeah. And also, make sure that you have enough characters, enough maps to make the initial purchase feel like a complete purchase.
Yeah.
Because if you go and you buy Mortal Kombat and there's only 8 characters, you're going to be pretty miffed, especially when you find out that, oh, there's another 8 characters that you can purchase later. That's no fun. All right, so the next the next up is just purely cosmetic items. So like hats in Team Fortress, Fortress 2. They have no impact whatsoever on how the game is played. They're just there to change up your character, make your character
so they should be
free.
free.
Free. Yeah, but if you want to charge money for them and they don't hurt the online competition or even change up how the game plays, that's okay. And now, from this point on,
especially when we're talking about a competitive multiplayer
yeah,
game.
especially competitive, yeah. So at this point out, pretty much everything is unacceptable, just to varying degrees. And what I find next is one-time use items, where you're charging somebody to buy, or you're charging, $5 to buy 10 potions to heal your character. That's stupid. I don't like that at all. It's a lot of games have it. Pokemon Go, a lot of free to play games where if it's free to play, like you said, and that's how you're making your money. Okay,
Yeah.
But if you're
what
charging
we're in
me
for with a free to play game.
Yeah, but if you charge me $60 and then you want me to buy another $5 or spend another $5 in order to buy potions that you've purposely made more rare than they should be in the game, yeah, you're kind of ticking me off. And then following on that is weapons and armor or other character stat boosting items, where especially in multiplayer, where this is if you're selling stat boosting items in a multiplayer game, you're a terrible person, terrible company. I'm sorry. People, pay to win is just the absolute worst thing ever, and stop doing it. Seriously. And because it doesn't make things are not fun for those of us who don't like to pay in order to advance in the game. I would rather just naturally advance like you would in any normal game out there.
Also, and keep in mind, these are generalizations. This doesn't apply to every single. A lot of this kind of depends on what specific games we're talking about.
Yeah.
But and that caveat just I lost my train of thought.
I'm trying to think.
What were we on? Weapons, armor, cosmetic. I'll think of it.
All right, and so next on my list is virtual currency, and I'm not talking about just general currency. I'm talking about that premium currency. Okay, go ahead.
The one-time use items. If you have paid one-time use items or paid buffs and things like that, you don't have to actually play the game you bought. You can just buy this stuff in advance. The pay-to-win stuff.
Yeah.
If that's in there, I don't believe you've balanced the game correctly. Now, developers will always say, "Oh no, it's just there. It's just completely optional." It's like bull pucky. You want us to buy that stuff. If you didn't, it wouldn't be there. So I don't believe the game isn't tuned to make me want to buy stuff.
Yeah. And usually
And basically what you're saying is our game is not really that fun to play, so give us some money and you don't have to actually play our game. We'll just give us some money and you can get to the end cutscene faster. It's like, is your game, maybe work on making your game more fun. Anyway, that's my rant.
Okay, so next up is premium currency. So your game is, in your game, you have your normal gold that you get from fighting monsters. And then you've got this other currency where you can get even better stuff, which you only get like one or two of these specific gems through, difficult things like leveling up or achievements or whatever. But you could buy 1,000 of these for $5 or $10 or whatever, and you could get that really awesome armor. That's just all a manipulation tactic. Seriously.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's absolutely terrible.
No, you're not spending real money on this stuff. You're spending your Smurf berries. You're just spending Smurf berries. You could spend real money on Smurf berries, but you can't spend real money on the stuff you use the Smurf.
Yeah, but it's all made the worse when it's two separate currencies. You've got the normal in-game currency and then the premium currency.
Mm.
Just stop it. Just if you want to sell currency, just sell the normal currency. But no, they want to gate some content off to just people who pay money. And yeah, I hate that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
Especially
don't
when
do
things,
that.
especially when things cost like uh, 2 silver bets and $5. Oh, come on, don't do that.
Yeah, yeah. And so next up is Andrew's favorite,
Mm,
season passes.
yeah,
Especially when it comes to Nintendo for some reason. Nintendo has no idea how to market season passes. But
which is weird because it started out okay with like Mario Kart 8
yeah,
and Hyrule Warriors, but recently it's just been like, oh, season pass is a thing. Oh, we should do that. It's like,
yeah,
where were you back when voice chat was a thing? Oh, we should do that. Or online was a thing. Oh,
yeah,
we should do that. Or region free is a thing. Oh, we should do that. No, that they're like, huh? Internet? What? No. But season passes, they're like, oh, that's good. We should do that.
yeah, yeah. And season passes are just, yeah, basically they're a way to pre-sell you on a lot of this other junk. And half the
I
time,
don't
you don't
believe they
know
know what it is
everything you're
yet.
going to get. Yeah, it's like, here, pay $20 for our season pass, and we'll let you know what you're going to get here in 3 months' time. It's like,
We still don't know what the
yeah,
damn DLC 2 pack in Zelda Breath of the Wild is.
yeah.
We know what
And
it's called.
we know it involves 4
Story?
amiibos, and
Yeah, and it supports new amiibo. And we
yeah,
know it has story and dungeon of
yeah,
some sort. We don't know how much or how significant, or we just know it's called like the Champion of Heroes, Heroes of something like that. But
yeah, and
I'm thinking Nintendo's waiting for Mario Odyssey to get out of the way or something. I don't
yeah,
know. I
I don't
really
know.
honestly expected to hear what that crap was back at like E3
Yeah, yeah, E3 or Nintendo Direct by now, but no.
or the last
Uh,
Nintendo Direct we had.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it's so. But yet, it's so many companies are pre-selling us on downloadable content, and they aren't communicating beforehand
Champion's valid. Thank you.
what is actually coming, and for some reason, gamers are buying this, and it doesn't make any sense. It's like you
We are
don't.
weak.
Yeah, don't pre-buy stuff. Don't pre-buy these things. Don't get season passes. Find out what is actually coming out and buy what you want if you're allowed to.
Well,
And if you,
sometimes you form a relationship with a company, and relationships are built on trust.
yeah,
And a lot of gamers, and I totally understand this, feel that we can trust Nintendo to deliver the goods. And to be fair, there was a DLC pack 1, and Nintendo did eventually detail what the hell was in it. Now,
yeah,
most of the crap in DLC pack 1 should not be paid for DLC. You know, like extra difficulty modes and
the map
extra
tracking,
the map tracking, quality of life things, tuning the
yeah,
game to make it better, improving the interface, that kind of quality of life stuff, that should never be paid DLC. That should
yeah,
always be free.
yeah. That
Paid DLC
was,
should add content to a game at the very least.
yeah. That DLC pack 1 was a huge letdown.
Yes, Cam totally
Um,
bought it. A lot of people did.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people did, and that's what Nintendo's banking on. And same thing with the Mario Rabbids thing.
Yeah.
They've got
No idea what the
they've
hell it
got a
is.
season pass, and we don't know what it is. We're
It's
assuming there's
story
going to be
content of
levels.
some sort.
Yeah, and if Mario Odyssey, if they announce a season pass for that, I'm probably never going to buy that game. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and
It's
Fire Emblem Warriors just announced a season pass a few weeks back and tells you almost nothing. There's going to be like 3 packs, and each one's themed to a particular game, but beyond that, it really doesn't tell you anything. It's like, what am I paying for? And
Yeah.
why season pass, a $20 season pass to me just tells me your game actually costs $80. Or in the case of
Yeah.
what is it? I think it's Assassin's Creed Origins has a $40 season pass.
Yeah, that's
2/3 of your base game's price is a season pass. Come on, guys.
yeah. It's like you're getting up into that range. It's like you might as well just make a sequel
Make a
and
sequel.
sell me a sequel. 'Cause seriously, because I remember the great old days of expansion packs. We mentioned this before.
Yeah.
Where you bought Warcraft 3 and you spent, I don't know what it cost back then, $50 or whatever. And you played that for the good part of a year, and then they released the Frozen Throne expansion pack for another $30 or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And that came with like nearly half the amount of or maybe more than half the amount of content of what the base game had.
It was new content.
And
Maybe
it was
not
new
enough
content,
sequel,
new levels,
content, yeah.
new characters, new story, new everything. It was for all intents and purposes a brand new game that you just had to have the original game in order to play. And yeah, it's just do that kind of stuff again, please, game developers.
Yeah.
If you come out with an expansion pack for a game that I love, I would probably buy that expansion pack because I was planning on buying a sequel anyways. But yeah.
Or if you are a greedy publisher, developer, whoever's making these decisions, and you really feel your game must have these deplorable, insidious, predatory practices to yank monies out of our wallets, could you at least pick one and stick with the one instead of you, Warner Brothers, picking all of them? Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about Middle-earth: Shadow of War.
Yeah. So
Deluxe editions, pre-order crap, season pass, DLC, microtransactions, loot boxes. Oh my god!
But speaking of which, my absolute worst, least acceptable form of paid content, paid DLC, is the loot box.
Yeah.
And this is what's been on everybody's minds over the last couple of weeks is the ethical nature of loot boxes and everything, and what they are. I'm sure everybody's heard of them, but just to give a brief rundown, they're just various tiers of gift boxes that you buy that at different price levels, and they give you a random assortment of crap. You might get one really awesome item out of it, or two or three or whatever, but 90% of the time you're just getting a bunch of crap that you don't need. And loot boxes have been around forever. I remember back in 2008, I was playing Mafia Wars, and they had loot boxes in there, and yeah, they were pretty much garbage back then. They haven't changed at all since they first came onto the market. And really, I guess you kind of go back to collectible card games like Magic the Gathering, where the booster packs is what the idea of the loot box is based on.
Well, you also don't have to put down $60 to play Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you go. I was at Walmart this morning, and I looked at. They had a Magic the Gathering, basically starter kit. I think it was $30, and it came with 60 land cards and then 10 booster packs, and the land cards were a mix, so it's like it wasn't a specific theme deck, but it had everything else that you needed to play Magic the Gathering, like tokens and dice and stuff. And then it had a handful of land cards and a bunch of booster packs. And I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. I would totally buy this if I wanted to get back into Magic the Gathering. But booster packs, you buy 10 cards and you get certain number of common cards, uncommon and rare cards. But loot boxes are completely different. This was something that people were talking about on Twitter as well. It's like, well, what's the difference between a loot box and collectible card game booster packs? And here's the difference. With a booster pack for Magic the Gathering, you know that you're going to get one rare card, three uncommons, and then 6 common cards for a total of 10. You know you're going to get that. And that rare card, you have a certain chance that that's going to be a foil. And if you buy a certain number of boxes of booster packs, you're going to get at least one of each card in that entire expansion. Your odds of getting the cards you want. And on top of that, even those 6 common cards that you get have strategic value in the overall game that you play. Yeah. You can build a successful deck using these common cards you buy. Sure, you're not going to use them all. Not every card is going to be 100% useful for your playstyle, but it might be useful for somebody else.
Yeah. When these games are balanced correctly, you don't win by just having a deck full of rares.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about the strategy. It's all about how you play. But with loot boxes, you get a handful of potions, maybe a shoulder pad and a hilt for your gun, or a hilt for your gun. I don't know what I'm thinking. A hilt for your sword. And then you get some super mega helmet of all-seeing, or whatever that makes it to where you never miss. And it's like, but maybe somebody else spends $50 and they never get something that could counteract that never hit helmet.
Well, sometimes sometimes the loot boxes are filled with purely cosmetic stuff, which is, I believe, is the case for Overwatch. I think everything you can get out of a loot box is character skins and stickers,
taunts, and they have taunts and other
valuable
like
stuff that I want, because I love cosmetic. You hear me joke about dress-up mode in video games and how that's the most important thing ever, and it is, because I love cosmetic stuff. So it annoys me that in order to get cool costumes and skins and stuff, I have to participate in this stupid loot box crap. Freekill puts out a good point regarding trading cards, is that you can sell trading cards that you don't want, since they're actually things you own. And
you can sell them, trade them to other players.
In Shadow of War, from what I've heard from read in some of the reviews that I've read, is that you get actual orcs in the loot boxes. I mean, you get other stuff too, but apparently, if you want to get to the end game, you're gonna have to get some loot box stuff going on. Because
interesting.
I mean, to an extent, I've read some stuff that say, it gets really unnecessarily grindy in order to get high-level orcs that you're going to need to raid the castle or whatever the hell you're doing at the end of that game. But hey, what's this over here? Loot boxes, yay! I hate that stuff. I hate.
It's like
I call me entitled, but if I've paid $60 for your game, if I've paid full price for your game, I feel entitled to all the stuff in your game. I don't feel I should have to spend extra money to access stuff in your game.
Yeah.
And again, when you put this loot boxes and things like that, and pay to win features, I don't believe you've balanced the game so that the paying extra money is optional.
Yeah.
Because if paying extra money was something that you didn't want us to do, if you wanted us to play the game by itself and not spend an extra dime, you wouldn't have that stuff in there. The reason it's in there is because you want us to spend money on it. So I believe, whether this is true or not, that you're going to do something to try and get me to spend money on this stuff. And that means tweaking the game in subtle ways to make the experience of playing it less desirable than shelling out more money on top of what I already paid.
Yeah. Yeah. So, after all this trashing of DLC and everything, I would like to give an example of a game that I think does paid DLC very well. And this is console Minecraft.
Okay.
And for Minecraft, I think it's $30 for the console version. I think if you go to Walmart, I think that's what it is. Might be 40. I don't remember.
$10 more, whatever it is.
Yeah. But so you go and you buy Minecraft, and you can play Minecraft. Everything that's Minecraft, you can play it. And but they do have some paid stuff. But it's all texture packs and character skins. That's all it is. You get texture packs, you get character skins, you get some pre-built adventure worlds that you can play in, which are pretty cool. But you could recreate all those worlds in vanilla Minecraft if you wanted to. But every time they release an update that's actually changes the way Minecraft is played, that is free. You get that simply for owning Minecraft. So when they release new items, you get those for free. When they release new online multiplayer modes, you get that for free. You get all of this stuff for free, and all you're buying are texture maps or texture packs, character skins, and adventure maps. It's a great model, and my kids have spent probably a good $30 of their allowance money buying texture packs and character skins, and it's their money. I don't care. They that's what they want to spend their allowance on. I'm fine with that. But yeah, it's because I don't mind. It's not a Skinner box or some other manipulative form of DLC. And so, people out there, if you're making a game, be more like Minecraft, I think, if you're going to go for the DLC stuff.
I also think someone in the chat, and I'd have to scroll up to look, and I'm not going to, but mentioned Witcher 3 as an excellent DLC, and I agree. The DLC packs for that were basically huge expansions with new characters and quests and stuff to explore and do, and that's great. That's great. It was also announced and came out long after the actual game did. It wasn't like they were selling The Witcher 3. Buy The Witcher 3, and 2 months after it comes out, you can buy more of The Witcher 3, because that feels like, oh, so you had all this stuff and you just chopped off the ends to sell it back later. Okay.
Yeah.
I think Nintendo has done a lot of great stuff in the early days when it was dabbling.
Yeah, before their season pass stuff.
First dipping a toe into the DLC waters with Super Luigi U, a expansion of sorts for Super Mario Brothers U, which added like 80 new stages. Some were brand new, some were remixes of additional stages, but it was basically just Luigi running through the existing map, but all the stages were different. So for $20, you got 80 new stages. It's great. It's great value. It was a lot of fun. I thought Hyrule Warriors was fine. That was $20. That was a season pass type thing, but they told you exactly what you were getting, and you got a lot. You got new characters, new weapons. You also got full new adventure maps, which were the same areas, but again, it was a lot more content, a lot of new stuff to do. Mario Kart 8, I thought, was pretty great, and this was an example of them not telling you everything that was in the pack, but giving you enough to know that it was worth your dollar. If I'm remembering correctly, it was something like two packs. I think there were $8 a piece, but 12 or 13 if you bought them together. So they were really well priced. And each one, they said, okay, in each pack you are going to get 4 new tracks, 3 new racers, and 3 new carts. You get that in each pack. And they told you like what one of the tracks would be and what one of the characters would be. And so in this pack, you're getting 4 new tracks, one of which is Animal Crossing. You're getting 3 new characters, one of which is Annabelle from Animal Crossing. So it's like, oh, okay, so I know what a track in Mario Kart 8 is. So I have a good understanding of what 4 new tracks means.
Yeah.
Or it was an entire cup or something. I forget exactly what it was, but it was
Yeah,
great.
I would assume it would be an entire cup.
Yeah.
But,
Also, one thing is I feel that I'm cheap, of course, but I also feel like a lot of DLC is just overpriced. For example, let's take a fighting game. You've got a fighting game. It costs $50. It's got 10 characters in it, so that's $5 a character, right? Even if you ignore all the music and the stage design and fighting mechanics and all the other stuff, if the game is just characters, it averages out to $5 a person, right? And then they sell an extra character for $8. You're like, well, wait a minute, an extra character should not be $8.
no, it shouldn't.
And fighting game rosters typically have north of 20 characters anyway. So
yeah, these days, the more characters, the easier it is to sell it.
Yeah,
because I think with the original Mortal Kombat came with 12 characters, something along those lines.
That,
yeah.
And
that was pretty sparse back then. I think the same thing with the first couple of Street Fighters, but
yeah, Street Fighter only had like 8 to 12, depending on how you count. So yeah, the early fighting games, but I mean, Smash Brothers for Wii U came out and has like 45 characters or some absurd thing, but then all their extra characters were like $7.99. It's like, that's horrifically expensive. Now, granted, each character came with their own stage and music, but still, I'm thinking like $1. I mean, especially if you're going to have like 15 new characters. Did we see the Skullgirls DLC Kickstarter from a few years back? Adding one fighter costs way more than you think.
Well, that was. I think that was a little bit different.
Entire game. I didn't see exactly what you're talking about, but look, if you have the framework for the entire game, adding another character should not cost a fifth of the entire game.
Yeah.
Or the sixth or seventh, depending on.
Well, and Matthew's speaking. Matthew's talking about something totally, somewhat related, but not quite the same thing. We're talking about selling a character that they've already created for $8, whereas with the Skullgirls thing, they were raising, I forget how much money, like $750,000 to add 5 new characters to the game or something along those lines or whatever. But the thing is that you as a purchaser of that, you were only paying, I think, $10 in order to get all the characters they were adding. But yeah, there is a lot of work that has to go in to make sure that character is balanced, and that's not what we're griping about. We're just griping about the fact that you're charging us
that large of a percentage of the cost of the entire game.
Yeah, because if you can sell us
to make a game with 25 characters for $60, it should not cost another $8 to add one more character.
Yeah, that's
absurd.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. But yeah, I don't know. But fighting games, that is a tricky game a tricky thing, because there is a lot of balancing. There is a lot of work in making sure that a character is competitive without being overpowered, and that other characters can successfully counter and everything. But yeah,
you certainly have a much lesser excuse if you're talking about like one of the Warriors games. Because this doesn't, you don't have to balance it against every other character. It has to be a character that can play the game.
Yeah, it has to be a character that when you swing your sword or stick or whatever, you send 50 bad guys flying across the map.
Yeah.
But yeah. Uh,
But it's kind of like once getting started is actually the expensive part.
mhm.
Making a game with one character is horrifically expensive. But once you get a bunch of characters, adding more is a lot less expensive than it was originally. This is a bad comparison, but it's a specific one that I can think of. When they did the reboot of Mystery Science Theater 3000, Joel Hodgson was talking about how they needed uh, $3 million or whatever it was for 3 or 5 episodes for an initial run of like say 5 episodes. And they said, but for an, and then the stretch goals were hit, and it's like, okay, so 3 million for 5 episodes, 3 million two for 6 episodes, 3 million four for 7 episodes. And it's like, well, wait a minute, why are the first episodes so expensive? Well, because you have to design the thing, write the plot, build all the sets, get all the actors. It's a lot cheaper to add extra episodes to the end. Now, granted, this is television and one's video games, it's the same thing, but
Yeah.
there is a corollary here. It is it it should not cost a significant chunk of the original to game to add another piece.
Yeah.
Generally, depending on the game, but
Yeah.
you're forgetting less than 20% buy DLC. If 100% bought DLC, I'd be right.
Talking about the price
Uh,
of the DLC. So
so it's expensive because not everyone buys it. Okay. On the other hand, if it were less expensive, more people would buy it. So,
yeah, it's all about the economy of scale there. It's, charging
I mean,
$8.
yeah, I mean,
You
I've
know,
talked about this like on eShop stuff, like uh, Hamster's arcade archives. If those were $1 a piece, buy all of them. But they're
yeah,
$8 a piece, so you're extraordinarily selective. You're almost never going to take, well, unless money's no object to you. I'm never going to just buy one of those Neo Geo games on a whim. I'll buy the
yeah,
ones I know and remember from the arcade, but at $8, that adds up really quickly. Buck a
yeah.
piece?
So
Hell,
talking
for
about
fifty
fighting
bucks,
game
I could buy
characters.
all of them.
Yeah, but talking about fighting game characters, say
Yes.
20% of the player base buys the $8 character.
Hmm.
Okay, but what if the character is $5 and 40% of the player base buys it? You're making a lot more money at that point.
Yeah.
So sure, there's going to be a point where the increase in buyership is going to actually start you know evening out, and then you're starting to lose money.
Eh,
But there is that peak where at this price point the maximum number of people are going to buy while still making us money, and that's what you're trying to shoot for. And so you don't want to overprice your stuff, because we see this a lot. Level Up Labs, Lars Doucet, he makes the game Defender's Quest, and one of his articles that a lot of people know is about what he calls the Stegosaurus tail. In game development, you hear a lot about the long tail, where you make the majority of your sales at the beginning of the life of the game, and then you have this slow trickle of sales throughout the rest of however long you sell the game. But he talks about the Stegosaurus tail, where at certain points you have a huge uptick in
Right.
sales, and it happens every once in a while, and the goal is to make that happen as often as possible. And a lot of it has to do with publicity. Sometimes it's to do with a sale, like a Steam sale or a GOG sale or whatever. But if people are buying your stuff because it's a lower price, then that's great. That's what that start banking on that. But,
Mm.
all right,
Of course,
but
at the
yeah.
end of the day, I just want all the stuff for as little as possible.
Don't we all?
Really,
Um,
I don't want to pay for a single video game more than once. It bothers
yeah.
me. Anyway, so let us move to our last topic, which is actually related to this, and that's the ESRB saying that loot boxes are not gambling. Now, what it said, let me pull up its quote here, which I had right here. The ESRB released a statement to various uh, outlets saying regarding loot boxes, while there's an element of chance in these mechanics, the player is always guaranteed to receive in-game content, even if the player unfortunately receives something they don't want. We think of it as a similar principle to collectible card games. Sometimes you'll open a pack and get a brand new holographic card you've had your eye on for a while, but other times you'll end up with a pack of cards you already have.
Yeah.
They're basically saying loot boxes are not gambling, which is just a semantic argument because
Yeah.
gambling as an English word is not that exclusive and specific.
Yeah,
You
and there's a
you don't just because you win an item of low value doesn't make it not gambling.
yeah.
Gambling, the definition of gambling is not if you lose you get nothing. That's not how that works.
Yeah, typically the gambling is defined as wagering money on something that's primarily down to chance,
Right.
and
It's
it,
betting or at least staking something valuable on an uncertain outcome.
yeah, and and then there's you've got semantics and gray areas in there where poker is still gambling even though there is an element of skill to it. There's
Yes.
still a lot of chance based on the deal of the cards.
Right.
But that's a PEGI, or that's the ESRB, and the PEGI, the PEGI or PEGI, yeah, from Europe. They released something pretty much similar. They said, in short, our approach is similar to that of the ESRB. I think all rating boards do, USK and Germany as well. The main reason for this, talking about they don't consider loot boxes gambling, is that for this is that we cannot define what constitutes gambling. That is the responsibility of national gambling commissions. Our gambling content descriptor is given to games that simulate or teach gambling as it's done in real life casinos, racetracks, etc. If a gambling commission would state that loot boxes are a form of gambling, then we would have to adjust our criteria to that. So
The other interesting thing is if the ESRB at least rates something as having gambling in it, it's automatically AO.
yeah. If it's real gambling, it's an automatic AO. But fake gambling, you're playing blackjack at with in-game currency to win in-game currency. They consider that simulated gambling, as
Mhm.
long as there's no method of you being able to buy in-game currency
Right.
and trade all that out.
Now, some of the arguments I've seen have been, what should the ESRB do? Should games with loot boxes be rated higher? Like, should they all be M rated? Um, I don't. I personally don't think so. I mean, I've only been thinking about this like today, so my thoughts may evolve over time. But I'm initially inclined to say no. I don't think the age rating needs to change. A lot of the reason is because in order to participate in the gambling-esque nature of loot boxes, you have to have a credit card,
Yeah.
and you have to be 17, I think, to have a credit card. So you already have that barrier in the first place.
Yeah,
Um,
and that, so
but I
yeah.
do think that the ESRB should find a form of content descriptor that encompasses uh, these type of systems in games.
Yeah, that would be something to add, because I think they already have a descriptor of some sort that says contains uh, contains microtransactions or something along those
They have
lines.
digital purchases, but
Yeah,
that only
digital
applies
purchases.
to digital games. I don't think that applies to retail games, unless I was reading, I think, Kotaku's article incorrectly.
Okay, I'd have to look into that some more, because
Yeah.
I thought they had something along the they have the online interact or online interactions are not rated.
Right.
Descriptor, I thought they had something similar along those lines for digital purchases, but maybe they don't. But games contain random loot boxes. But yeah, I think we should be moving in a direction where that is something that's upfront and told to us as gamers. And it's also something that I think, just like with Apple and Google and Amazon, where they by default, or I don't know if it's by default, but they make it very easy for you to lock that down, where you have to actually put in your password in order to make an online purchase in the game. I think, I'm trying to remember last time I bought a Minecraft DLC pack for my kids. I'm pretty sure I had to put in my PSN password in order to make that purchase. But yeah, as long as there is that level of parental control, then yeah, I think we're doing okay. But these things definitely need to be front and center with the purchaser of the game, that you're going to have to buy other stuff, or you have the option of buying other stuff.
Something I was thinking about, I was giving Warner Brothers crap for having like every single version of paid DLC, from season passes to microtransactions to boxes to pre-order bonuses to everything under the sun. In a game and I've often heard the argument, well, games are still $60 if they got to make money somehow, otherwise games would be $100. There's actually a lot of, they are selling them for $100, the deluxe gold edition or whatever. But one of the things I've noticed is that it's always the biggest, most wealthy companies out there, like Warner Brothers, who does this crap.
Activision,
Ubisoft. It's always the biggest companies with the largest money bins, who seem to just be starving for cash and just need to litter their games with all these extra revenue streams. It's like, really? Because the smaller developers and publishers don't seem to have to do this. They seem to be doing okay. Maybe you should learn how to manage a buck.
Yeah. And that's I think the nature of being a large company with shareholders to be held account to.
Yeah, a lot of money isn't good enough. We must have all the money.
We need more, yeah. And
6 million copies of Tomb Raider is a failure.
Exactly. And with smaller companies, with like indie developers, individual people, or small five person teams, they tend to focus more on the goodwill with their fan base, and releasing free stuff builds goodwill. And but it does take a lot of time, and hopefully they're making more sales to pay for all that, and which is what they typically bank on. But yeah, it's just with big companies, they don't care about goodwill. They just know that X number of people have bought this franchise for this many years. We can count on that same number of people buying the game this time, and X percentage of those people buying the season pass and these other things, and they know that they can make that much more money. Yeah. And Matthew says the feel-good story of the week is that Cuphead has sold over 1 million copies, which is really cool. Good for those guys.
I'd like to play that. I love the look of it.
The game
purely aesthetically is the only reason I want to play. I'm sure it's fun, but it's just the aesthetics that. In that case, maybe I should watch a Let's Play. I don't know. I love,
I've seen
shooters it looks basically like Contra, and I love games like that, so I'd probably enjoy playing it. But
it's got
it's Xbox One, and I don't have one. I could get it on PC, I guess.
Yeah, you got run and gun levels, multi-stage bosses, and then I think it's like one-hit kill or whatever for your
Oh, is it?
character or
Well,
something
I mean,
along those lines.
that's
Yeah,
classic shooter. Yeah, that's what Contra was. You get hit
yeah,
once, you're dead.
yeah. But yeah, it's there's it's very difficult. And that was one of those controversies over the last week or so was just a bunch of people
But
who saying that the game is just really difficult. I can't beat it, and then everybody else is just like,
use the
just get
cheat code.
good. Yeah.
Use the Konami code. That's what we did.
Oh, it's 3 hits and you're dead. Okay.
Oh, three? Oh, well, that back in my day, one hit kills.
Yeah.
But that's the
one
interesting thing when people say, "Oh, back when we were kids, it was all, we played Contra and it was hard as balls and we liked it." It's like, you use the Konami code like everyone else. Don't give me this crap.
Come on, give
I
you
use
99 lives. You can beat pretty much any game.
Contra, I think it's 30.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to. I don't know if I've ever beaten Contra without the Konami code because I don't know if I ever bothered.
Yeah, I think
but
I've only ever played it with the Konami code, but I think I don't think I've ever actually beaten a Contra game. But I know I have played them before, but I don't think I've ever.
I've beaten some hard games. I've beaten Snake Rattle and Roll, Ghouls and Ghosts, Battletoads. No. I did not beat Battletoads because there's the ending level. Did I beat it? No, I must have because I remember. No, I remember the end boss. So I must have beaten it.
Yeah.
I just remember you go up this tower at the very end, and it's so long. It's like the longest stage in any game ever. I remember I turned it off at one point because I was just so bored of playing it. But I remember the end fight against the evil queen who doesn't wear pants either. She has this really weird like tornado spin attack, which always looked kind of creepy.
Yeah.
But,
did you ever play an NES game called Metal Storm, where you're a
is
mech?
that the one where you flip the
you
gravity?
flip upside down.
Yes, love that one.
Yeah, I've actually beaten that one, and that one's a one-hit kill game.
Does that have an escape sequence at the end where you have to rush out, dodge stuff?
No.
I'm trying to think what the ending of that one is. Pretty sure I beat it.
You beat it, and then you just kind of launch off Neptune after that.
Is that it?
Or no,
I'm thinking
of
of Abadox.
Pluto. You're on Pluto.
I'm thinking of Abadox. Okay.
Yeah.
Another game I've beaten, which is actually really hard. Seekins only beat Contra 3. I couldn't play Contra 3. Those overhead Mode 7 spinny ones, I was just like, no. No, don't want. Which is a shame because the maybe 2 levels I played of it were really good.
Yeah,
but that overhead spinny Mode 7 stuff just made me nauseous.
Yeah. I've never beaten a classic Mega Man, but I'll beat Mega Man X any day.
I beat Mega Man 1 through 6. And
I've got
and 7.
I've got 9 and 10 on the PS3.
I've never played those.
But I tried playing them and I kept getting killed, and it's just like, this is a classic Mega Man.
Yeah. The first one, I think the first one's hardest simply because there's no damn saving in it. You have to beat it in one sit.
Oh, there's no passwords or anything?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure the original I think the password system was introduced in Mega Man 2. The first one, you have to beat so it's like, Mom, don't touch the console. I'm in Wily's castle. Don't turn it off. I need to go to the bathroom or school or something.
Yeah. And then your Nintendo resets on you overnight, and you're totally screwed.
Gas can, I don't need no Konami code. I got Game Genie. It's funny. I don't recall ever using the Game Genie to cheat. I used it to mess around and give Mario moon gravity and stuff. That was always the fun stuff.
I never used the Game Genie. I've never used the Game Genie to beat a game the first time. I've always used it to help me play a game again or just do something new and fun with it. Because for Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo, there was a Game Genie code. I forget what the original code was for, but if you got one letter off, one character off, it made it turned it into a one life playthrough. You literally had to play it through in one life, or you had to restart the game. And it was great. I loved that code. I even wrote it into the Game Genie code book because I was like, "This is cool." You know, resets the game after death, and yeah, I never actually beat it with that Game Genie code in play, but I thought it was just a really fun way to play Mario Brothers or Mario World. So,
Trying to think. It's interesting. A lot of the games I think back on in the NES, Super NES, especially the NES era, that I think back on as super hard, were super hard because of a lot of times game design flaws. I mean,
yeah,
Ninja Gaiden is hard because of just some really poor design in a lot of places. um,
yeah,
I only played Ninja Gaiden in the arcade, so I've only played like the first couple of levels. I never played the NES version. I never played any of the sequels either. Castlevanias I just didn't really like. Um, I did play Castlevania 4, and that's another game where that mode 7 stuff. There's this room where you're like in a cylinder that rotates around you, and oh
hmm
god, that makes me nauseous. There's another section where they do the mode 7 thing where you like hang from your whip, and then the room rotates around you. Oh, that turns my stomach. I hate that. I don't think I ever got through that. I did beat the N64 version of Castlevania though, and that's another game that's really hard just because it sucks. I beat it twice too. I beat it with both characters.
yeah. Cool.
Um, what else? I, I can't think of really anything recent that I'd consider super hard. Um,
Yeah, I can't think of anything either. I just kind of, I typically I'll just play things, whatever the default difficulty is.
yeah,
If it has
I
difficulty
would like to try
select,
one of the Dark Souls games one of these days. Not just because I hear they're hard, but because I hear they're really good.
yeah,
I've just never got around to playing them. Um, yeah, I mean there's certainly like moments in games, like the last level in Super Mario 3D World is hard for me anyway because those damn disappearing blocks I suck at. Um, I remember some of the Rayman Legends or Rayman Origins. Some of the individual moments in the game can be pretty tricky.
yeah.
Uh, Zombie U is hard to get through on survival mode because that's one hit and you're done in the entire game. Um, uh, can't say I struggled with any of the Lego games. I did beat Piano
I'm sure you
3.
had a really hard time playing Kirby's Epic Yarn. That one was just brutal.
That you know what? That one's actually all as generous as I can be is tricky. If you're going for all gold, platinum,
Yeah,
whatever it is to collect all the beads, if you're doing
all the
that,
beads and all the items.
there.
Yeah,
I seem to remember like the flying saucer level was actually difficult to get a perfect score on. That I had to try it like 10 some odd times.
yeah. Some
I
of
did
those levels. Yeah, were
Piano 3. You get there's one outfit in the game which is basically a thong, and it's one hit and you're dead. I beat the game wearing that outfit. Yeah, so that's back in GameCube. I loved Piano 3. That's a game that I don't think a lot. I think I played that on the stream last year, or the Extra Life stream last year, or the year before, and I just really enjoy that game. Um, uh, yeah, the hardest games I can think of, like the bragging rights games, are all like NES games. Yeah,
hmm
I beat Snake, Rattle, and Roll. Kids today be like, "What? Is that like Dark Souls 2?" And no.
yeah,
So, well, that's 2 hours. I think we've
yeah.
podcasted enough. I actually have to shoot a video and then probably spend a dozen hours editing it because, oh, this is going to be a project to edit. I'm going to be spending all day on that tomorrow. I know it. Because I have to, because there's like 160 games, and I insist on putting a picture of the game up every time I talk about a new game. It's like, oh, this
Fun.
company is releasing this game, boop, and it's releasing this game, boop. So I have to go get all that art, and then I have to manually place it in the video. That just takes a long, long time. So luckily, I'm not planning on having that done until Friday. Hopefully, I'll finish it this weekend. But so my patrons can get a look at it as early as possible. Everyone else Friday. So yeah, Andrew Eisen here, plugging stuff, doing a video. Should be out on Friday or Monday, I guess, if you're a patron. Follow me on Twitter at Andrew Eisen, and if you want to get in on the Extra Life charity event thing, you can go to extralife.org. There's a hyphen, so extra-life.org/participant/Andrew Eisen, and that's my fundraising page. Make a donation, completely tax deductible. All monies go to the Rady Children's Hospital here in San Diego. And the marathon itself starts noon Pacific time on Saturday, November 4th. So I hope you will join me for that. And to answer Seekin's question, what is the first Switch game I'm going to buy? I've actually already pre-ordered it. Super Mario Odyssey. That should be here in 2 weeks. Yeah, like 12 days, something like that. So I'll have that for the stream. Planning on playing The Adventures of the Pantsless Women for the PlayStation 4, and possibly some other stuff. We'll see. Also working on having my sister's going to be there, working on having a special guest too. So we'll see how that pans out. And yeah, I think that's everything. So Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at Easy Night, where I talk about gaming and politics and other stuff. And then this week, I'm hoping to actually get back into game development again, and you can follow that at DK_gaming on Twitter and DivineKnightGaming.com. And if you're interested in the Oklahoma game development scene, follow OK Game Devs on Twitter and OKGameDev.com. So there you go.
All right, that is it for us. You've been listening to the Molehill Mountain podcast, and we dearly appreciate it. So we'll see y'all again next Saturday. Take care. Have a fun week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.